Okay, we're going to get started with the candidate forum. Again, my name is John Schuyler. I'm the president for the OLLI at SOU Council. I want to welcome those here in the classroom in person, but also want to welcome those that are on Zoom. Thank you for joining us for a very important part of our selection of incoming council directors. I also want to thank the OLLI leadership that are here. I know we have a number of directors, chairs, past presidents. So thank you all for coming. I'm glad that you're interested, and I appreciate your volunteering for OLLI, both currently and past. And those of you that haven't volunteered for OLLI, I hope that you consider that. We have a lot of different places that you can help out. Doesn't have to be in terms of governance. It could be on one of our standing committees, one of our teams. So please give that a consideration. So today, the candidate forum is the opportunity for you to learn and hear from the four candidates who bring a wealth of experience and strong interest in OLLI and lifelong learning. We appreciate their willingness to serve in a leadership role. There'll be an opportunity for questions after we have our formal questions for the candidates. So please think about what you might want to be asking them. So please join me in welcoming Ann Hartridge, Susan Floss, Kevin Talbert, and Jackie Waddlewander. So I'm going to sit down here so I can look at the candidates instead of you guys. And we're going to start off with a 2-minute introduction for each candidate. And we're going to start with Ann.
Hi, nice to see you all. Hopefully you can hear me. I was told in my acting class on Monday that I really need to project. So I could do it if we were singing. I've been singing classes with a lot of you, but hopefully a lot of you online. So I'm the newbie here. I feel like I'm the newbie. My husband and I moved to Ashland last year, and we immediately dived into OLLI and have loved it. He's taught a class already, Italiano, and I've taken a lot of singing classes. My understanding, so you said intro. My understanding is I'm answering why do I want to be here? And I want to be here because I was raised with the strong ethic of contributing. To quote Pete Seeger, participation, that's what's going to save the human race. And I believe that. And that's how I have led my life to this point. I believe in OLLI. I believe in its mission, its vision, and its values. I've seen it in action. I've met so many interesting people who've got lifetimes of experience and interesting gifts and talents to share. And I have looked at other OLLIs across the country, and this is the one I like. And I've just had so much fun here, making new friends and learning new things and expanding my mind and meeting so many of you who have just, lit up my world. My husband can attest to the fact that I come back from my singing classes just singing the whole rest of the day. So yeah, so I think I've hit all the points that I want to hit. So thank you. Oh, actually, one final point. The other reason that I'm sitting here is because I'm looking right at her. Ann McGill said, Ann, you better run for that spot.
All right, thank you.
Well, I have written remarks, so I want to be sure I cover everything I want to say. I want to thank the OLLI Council and staff for organizing this forum, and all of the OLLI members who are here today and on Zoom. It's an honor to be sitting up here with such well-qualified candidates. I worked for 26 years in higher education administration at the University of Oregon and Blue Mountain Community College. In my career, my primary work across both institutions focused on resource development, mostly through writing or helping to develop grant proposals to support academic programs, faculty research, and institutional initiatives, and also through fostering relationships or partnerships with funding organizations. At both institutions, I also coordinated some major special events and served on a variety of planning, operational, and advisory committees. I retired early in 2012 and was then elected to serve on the Board of Education at Blue Mountain Community College. I have served on boards of nonprofit organizations, including the United Way of Umatilla and Morrow Counties. In 2018, after the death of my husband, I decided to move to Ashland to start a new life. However, for the first 5 years after moving, a long stretch of family obligations interrupted that plan. But in the past couple of years, I've been able to become more engaged in the community. I have a bachelor's degree in history from Chico State and a master's degree in history from the University of Oregon. I like to travel, and I'm enjoying learning about Southern Oregon history through my volunteer work at the Historical Society. I have a wonderful stepson and daughter-in-law, 3 grand dogs, 1 grand cat, who all live in Colorado.
Thank you. We were asked to talk about our personal and professional background, so that's kind of the focus of my remarks. I grew up on a dairy farm in Minnesota, and by the end of high school, I was ready to get off the farm and see the wider world. I joined the Peace Corps and served in Nigeria. And then a couple of years later, I spent a couple of years in the Army, most of it in Asmara, Ethiopia. And then came back, finished my education. I got a bachelor's in political science from the University of Minnesota, and eventually a PhD in higher education administration from the University of Northern Colorado. Most of my professional career has been right here at Southern Oregon University, where for many years I was the director of what was then called the Extended Campus Programs. It was a very entrepreneurial unit at that time. We administered non-credit programs, continuing education, summer session, youth programs, senior programs, distance learning, pretty much anything that was non-traditional at the university. And then the last 6 years that I was at the university, I was the chief information officer. So I was responsible for computing, for media, for telecommunications, and Rogue Valley Community Television. Since retiring, well, then shortly after I retired, I hosted some elder hostel and Rhodes Scholar programs, and also taught courses for both the Master in Management at SOU, which I helped found, and the Applied Information Management program from the University of Oregon. So had some teaching experience, and then in the remaining years between then and now, I've been very active in the community and on boards, also as a volunteer for things like pulling weeds for the Nature Conservancy, and you know, a bunch of different things, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. I'm married. My wonderful wife Barbara is in back, who some of you know is the leader of Ashland at Home, which is a volunteer organization that helps people as they age to stay in their, oh, no more time, in their own homes as long as possible. And I'm a volunteer.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you and to potentially serve for you. I am also a newbie here. My husband, who's the amazing looking guy with the white hair and white shirt back there, and I moved here from Missoula, Montana last year. So big change for us, and we are loving Southern Oregon. I hadn't even heard of Ashland 2 years ago, but obviously I was very impressed when I saw it, and I'm even more so impressed now that I'm living here. So my background is, I grew up in a radio, TV, media family in the central part of Montana, and knew from a very early age that's what I wanted to do in my life. So I started college at the University of Montana and started selling radio advertising part-time and was offered a full-time job, and there went college. That was my dream job, so I kind of just gravitated towards that, and I worked in radio selling advertising and then in television, and then I went to the newspaper industry. And from there, after selling newspaper ads, I went into more specialty publications, one of which was a senior magazine, Montana 55 senior magazine for the whole state. I also worked on Montana Magazine for a number of years, and probably my biggest project was a statewide art gallery and museum guide called Montana's Cultural Treasures that I published and distributed for, oh, I'm gonna say over 25 years. Yeah, something like that. So, yeah, I am really enjoying, OLLI. It was Molly at the University of Montana. I'm incredibly impressed with how this is a much smaller college, yet the OLLI program is so much bigger than where I came from in Missoula, and the offerings are so interesting. It's like there's, I'm in my third class now and my second term, and I think it's amazing.
Okay, now we're gonna get to the formal questions for each of the candidates. And we're gonna start with Anne, so if you could pass her the microphone. And the folks here in the room may not know, but Sarah is our timekeeper.
Yeah.
So don't look at me, look at Sarah. So our first question is, what motivated you to volunteer for serving on council?
So clearly it wasn't reading the directions that you provided me, because I answered that as my first question. Let me introduce you to me. My name's Ann Hartridge. I retired recently as a lawyer for the state of California. My job was helping one of the state's larger water quality entities provide loans and grants to fund wastewater and drinking water projects, watershed monitoring, all manner of stormwater, anything related to water quality projects in California. I did that. I was a direct advisor to the board for 25 plus years, and I retired after 6 years as a manager overseeing 15 attorneys. Attorneys are really easy to manage. Formal training and argument. Yeah. So, I like attorneys so much. I married one. We are parents of two wonderful sons who love so much and who are launched out into the world. One is living in Seattle, one lives in San Luis Obispo, and yeah, I just can't say too many great things about them, but I have to knock on wood every time. We moved to Ashland with our two dogs. One who barks so much he makes it hard to invite people over, and one who is about 16, and we're hoping he makes it through the year. But before I was a lawyer, I was whitewater rafting guide. Spent 3 years taking people down the Killer Kern in Southern California. Yeah, and there are signs up all along the highway saying how many people have died on the so that was a great job. I grew up on the north coast of California. We used to vacation here when I was a kid. We'd come skiing, we'd come see Shakespeare. My mom still lives in Arcata, and I love to get back to visit her whenever, and my stepfather whenever I can. And my sister is in the Eureka Symphony Orchestra there, and I would encourage everybody, if you want a coastal trip, go see the Eureka Symphony. That's super fun. And I'm probably out of time. Oh, I have 30 seconds. And now I'm gonna sing a little song from that. But as I said to John and Sarah earlier, I love reading statutes. I love reading bylaws. I love to turn them into songs too. That's me. So that's why I'm. Oh, Stanford undergrad, UC Davis Law.
So I am a firm believer in the value of education throughout all phases of life. OLLI is really an incredible asset to this community and the region and everywhere that OLLI touches. In fact, OLLI was one of the reasons I decided to move to Ashland. When I was still in Pendleton and was considering several different communities as possible places to live, I went onto the SOU website and I started just poking around. I found OLLI. And I looked at the array of courses for that term. I looked at some of the instructors' profiles, and I was just blown away. I think that's one reason one of the reasons that Ashland moved to the top of the list. I was telling people about it in Pendleton, and they've got this program. So I've enjoyed taking 1 or 2 classes each term and have attended a few OLLI events. But this opportunity to run for the council arrives at a good time in my life to become more engaged in community activities. OLLI seems like a good match for me, and I would be really proud to do what I can to help it thrive. I believe that my background in higher education administration, my prior leadership experience, and my collaborative nature would serve OLLI well in moving forward with a strategic plan. Becoming more involved in OLLI in a leadership capacity would be a learning experience on its own and personally very enriching for me. And a big bonus is that I would get to meet and to work with and to be around some very interesting and accomplished people.
Well, there are quite a few reasons why I'm gonna do this, but I'm just gonna try to limit it to 2. One is that I administered lifelong learning here at the university for many years. I was always impressed with older people that, you know, they kept their sense of curiosity and excitement and sort of a adventurousness, is that a word? And wanted, you know, just wanting to, you know, make more of life, no matter what age you were at, and that really inspired me. And so in the 90s, we had heard about these institutes for learning and retirement. And so I and Barbara and a few other people were the founders really of Southern Oregon Learning and Retirement, which was the predecessor of OLLI. And it was great to be able to nurture that and see it, you know, expand and grow. And I kind of feel like coming back, and I rejoined OLLI last year, in 2025. And this is like bringing things full circle. And then the second thing, I guess I would say is that when Barbara and I retired, she was too young, she couldn't retire. When we left the university, we spent a year in our van, we went to all 50 states. Well, we flew to Hawaii, but we drove to the other 49. And we camped mostly in state parks and national parks and campgrounds, and we're trying to decide what we could do the rest of our lives and what's important. And we didn't answer all those things, but we did come up with 2 things that both of us agreed were really important to us. One was we want to keep our lives interesting, and we knew we could only do that if we, you know, found interesting things to do and put ourselves out there and tried to get involved. And so we've tried to do that in the last 20 some years. And then, you know, the other thing is we said we don't want to be recipients, we want to be contributors to our community. We want to give back. And so I think, in my mind, serving on the OLLI Council would be kind of check both those boxes and would be meaningful.
I am really passionate about seniors living our best life ever. This is a great time in life. I've only been retired a couple of years. I'm so excited, I can't stand it. It's like this whole new world, you know? I mean, I think it's wonderful. I think I first became sort of passionate about seniors when I was volunteering on something called the Western Montana Radio Reading Service, which is old technology now, but back then in, I guess it was probably the 80s when I started, we had volunteers that would read newspaper articles over closed circuit radios to people who were low vision. And it was a wonderful mission, and I served on that board for 13 years, and that is, I think, was my, and you know, I worked in commercial radio. I liked the idea of working in the other side of it, you know, and helping those who didn't get to do things that the rest of us, you know, could do. And it was mostly seniors. It wasn't limited to, but obviously, you know, mostly seniors. So that was kind of my first exposure to it. Then, you know, when my parents got to be about the age that I am now, both of them lost their jobs due to, I'm gonna call it ageism. And one of them rebounded a little better than the other, my father, of course, you know. And my mom struggled. I remember her saying things like, you know, once you're 60, they forget about you. And what they both went through, I took really seriously, and I thought about for years. And another story I'll share is that in my working life, when I was doing that arts guide, I met an artist from Thailand. He was a sculptor, and he was incredibly talented. And his wife, who bought advertising from me, told me that he could not make a living in Thailand because they don't take you seriously in Thailand when you're young. You are not respected until you're older. What? I am like, this is in the middle of when my parents were still alive and going through all their stuff, and I'm like, we have this so wrong. So yeah, I'm very passionate about that, and I think that led me to really diving deep into the Montana 55 Senior Magazine. It was a really great experience to come up with stories that were relevant to seniors. And probably one thing that I'm really proud of is the annual senior housing guide that we put together. And again, this was at a time before internet searches were huge and easy and all of that. And I know how much I would have appreciated having a guide like that when I was trying to figure out where my mom should live that had services.
So our next question, we're gonna start with Susan and end with Anne. And the question is, what skills, talent, and experience would you bring to this leadership position?
I know that I have a lot to learn about how OLLI actually operates as an organization, and I would do a lot of listening at the beginning as well as throughout my term as a director. I am by nature a person who appreciates and works well in an environment of teamwork and collaboration. Very early in my career, when working on grant proposals and in other endeavors, I learned the importance of asking a lot of questions, encouraging other ideas and perspectives, and working toward consensus. I'm good at simultaneously seeing both the big picture and exploring the details that ground it in reality. In addition to my work directly related to grants, I have experience in program planning and development. For example, at the U of O, I was on a committee that was planning the development of an international college. At Blue Mountain, I was co-chair of a planning committee to establish an equine center with an indoor arena and classrooms that would also serve as a home to the college's rodeo team. I also was a BMCC representative on a steering committee with Eastern Oregon University and the city of Hermiston to establish the Eastern Oregon Higher Education Center in Hermiston. And my experience also includes dealing with some very challenging issues. At the U of O, as an officer of administration, I was elected to the University Senate and then to the Faculty Advisory Council, both of which at different times were involved in budget cut and other strategic discussions with the top administration. At Blue Mountain, I served on the president's cabinet, as well as ad hoc advisory committees that dealt with major issues such as program restructuring, budget cuts and retrenchment, and a looming possible strike by the faculty union. As an example of a different kind of experience, at the U of O, I was co-chair of the University Committee on Reaccreditation, which involved multiple subcommittees and about a year of work, and produced a large report covering the previous 10 years and the future goals of every aspect of the university. So those are some of the skills and experience that I would bring to this position. I also would bring curiosity, open-mindedness, a respect for other people's opinion, a good work ethic, and a deep appreciation for OLLI and its mission.
Well, I want to say what she said.
Yeah.
That was so great. It reminded me that I was chair of the faculty senate early in my career here at the university. When Ann talks about herding cats with lawyers, well, you know, faculty. So I did have some, but I mentioned I'd had a lot of experience in different organizations. I was about 20 years on the Rogue Community College board. I was the Oregon Community College Association board and president for 2 years. I was president of the Southern Oregon Land Conservancy. I've been on the Crater Lake Natural History Association board for years and years. I helped establish the tax base for Southern Oregon Research and Extension, OSU's outreach here in the valley, and I'm on their advisory board and used to advise on their statewide programs. I've had, you know, a lot of experience with different organizations and trying to find ways to support them, but I've almost always been in a leadership role, either as president or chair. And, but you know, the reason I liked what you said so much is it isn't really what you've done. It's like, what are you gonna do next? And, I think I'm a good listener. I try to be, I enjoy the governance process. I like working with people. And, I think I could make a contribution. You said it so well, I can't quite replicate it, but it was, you know, I think I could be a contributor, and, if you're fortunate to get elected, I'll be doing that.
This thing about hurting attorneys, I just have to say, hurting artists is a big challenge. Oh, like 400 of them. So in addition to serving on the radio rigging service board, I also served on the staff parish relations committee at my church for 6 years and chaired that for, I don't remember how many of them, some of them. And I was on other boards of directors over the years and presided over some and just volunteered over some. So I do have experience with that. I think probably one thing that is my strength is my ability to connect with people. I think that's what was a big foundation of my career in selling advertising. You know, when I was training a new employee one time, this person came around in my car with me and I was out on sales calls, and at the end of the day, he goes, "And you get paid for this?" And I realized then, you know, probably my favorite thing in life is making new friends. Drives my husband crazy. But I think I realized that I was getting paid to make new friends. So that, I think that's my strength, is connecting with people. I find everybody interesting. I like hearing their stories. I like helping organize things and put them together and carry them out and vision new ideas and brainstorm different things and try something we've never tried before and ideas along that line.
So we'll finish up with Anne.
So I kind of feel like I'm gonna copy Susan's answer. I had, you know, my skills come from being a lawyer and from being a river guide. And from being a lawyer, there was a lot of stakeholder engagement. And I see that as something that is part and parcel of OLLI. One of the fundamental aspects of OLLI is it's a member-driven organization, and hearing the input from the members and turning that into reality. I mean, y'all have done such amazing work over these years of turning this into such a great OLLI. But that's something that I was tasked to do. As a government employee, my bosses, it was their obligation to take input from a diverse array of California stakeholders, farmers, the environmental justice communities, the cities, the legislators, speaking of Virgin, and make something of it. And I think my agency, which will remain nameless for now, did a really bang up job providing financial assistance on the order of $7 billion a year through 30 different programs to maintain and improve and expand California's water quality. As part of all that, again, I'm familiar with governance structures. And as Susan said, the micro and the macro perspective, use slightly different words, but it's the same idea of seeing the big picture, but also seeing the little picture and trying to figure out what needs to happen within a larger framework. One thing that, you know, came up for me repeatedly, and this is not really something I thought much about before the recent news about SOU, but one of the things that I had to do in my job was to occasionally do battle with the California Department of Finance, when California was in a recession year. And that was something, that my agency dealt with, and I specifically had to talk to their counsel and talk them into, giving, my board's programs, the funds that it needed in a given year. And it was fun. It was a fun thing. I don't know why I'm wired that way. That was fun. Also, you know, as part of my job, I was tasked with, I'm not gonna say negotiating with legislators, but having conversations with legislators who had great ideas for bills, and spending a lot of time talking with them on policy initiatives that they had, spending time advising gubernatorial appointees on, you know, on weighting matters. And I am now out of time.
So for our third and final question, we're gonna start with Kevin and end with Susan. And the question is, over time, the annual membership survey asked members, what one thing would they change in OLLI? So what is the one thing you would change?
Well, I'm gonna say right off the bat, I didn't come into this with an agenda. And honestly, I am so impressed with what OLLI has evolved to become. Or to what OLLI has evolved to. And you know, maybe if I'm around it longer, I'll find something that I really want to change. But right now, I think it's very good. And, you know, for ideas for change, if you just look at their strategic plan, there are opportunities there for exploring many different things, more travel programs, more venues, different ways of getting instructors, sharing with other OLLIs around the country. I mean, there's a whole bunch of ideas of how things could be different. So I'm not here to ask for a change in anything right now. Maybe I'll feel differently down the road. I would say, though, that the one thing that is really on my mind is SOU. And Anne, thank you for asking that question at the beginning, because we are confronted here at the University of Southern Oregon with the largest challenge to one of the most biggest institution in Ashland. And we don't know what's gonna happen. And you know, there are implications for OLLI, but I was thinking when John and Heather were answering that question, I guess the way I think about it is, I think we should not say, what can SOU do for OLLI, but what can OLLI do for SOU? And if I'm on the council these next few years, I don't have an agenda for what exactly that could be. I mean, maybe it's fundraising, maybe it's encouraging our members to give legacy gifts to SOU. Maybe it's, you know, I know that OLLI already supports athletics and the library and the music program and so many things, but you know, maybe we need to double down on that. But we need to ask our members, maybe it's not just about you taking classes, but maybe what can every OLLI member do to help SOU to flourish? Because that's what is at the center of our community. So that's what's on my mind.
This is a tricky question because when you're new, you have no idea what idea everybody hated and tried in the past. So I would say I kind of like the idea of having some light schedule in the summer. I think some seniors tend to travel less in the summer because we can travel the rest of the year when it's not crowded. And so that might be something to think about, maybe something on a different scale, different format, maybe a little bit more interactive, maybe a little bit more discussion oriented that has a leader as opposed to, you know, a traditional type of class. And maybe those have been done and I just don't know yet. I don't know much yet. You know, I like the idea of interactive things, more interactive things. My husband was telling me, if I'm remembering this right, about something in high school. Did you do some kind of 3-on-3 debate or something you were telling me about a couple of weeks ago? And I thought, that would be cool. You know, we could debate what SOU should do for their budget criteria, you know. I mean, well, that'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? You know, to get people in a room and set up mock debates about, you know, local things, local issues. Anyway, I just thought something like that might be interesting. And, you know, I also think, I know there's been some talk about the due structure, and I know it's supposed to be one thing I'm on too. I, I think a lot of people really like the way it is now. But I kind of wonder, does it have to be just one way? I mean, could it be more than one way? Could it be that there's, you know, a full membership that's the way it is now? Could there be, you know, a different tier of a membership that doesn't give you unlimited classes? I don't know if anything like that's been tried, but, you know, I just thought it'd be something to throw out there that maybe is up for discussion.
I also didn't come to this with an agenda. My biggest goal is to not break this great thing that you guys built. You know, I have lots of little ideas and like Jackie, I don't know if they've been tried or not. I would look forward to hearing everybody's ideas. I did check a box on the survey. I used the parking lot. I would love steps down from the parking lot, but that is, I mean, I've got great hiking boots too, so I don't need steps down, you know. But I'm definitely, like I said before, I'm definitely interested in hearing everybody's thoughts and also, you know, working within the world of the possible and trying to expand the world of possible. But speaking of, you know, speaking of grants, speaking of grant making, I've started looking around a little bit to see if we qualify for any additional grants. And that was, you know, if we do, regardless of whether I'm on the council or not, I'll keep an eye on that.
Well, as with the others, I do not, would not come into the OLLI council with a personal agenda to change anything. I think the strategic plan is a very good one. And a lot of work and thought went into that, and I think that provides the guidance for OLLI for some years to come. That being said, there are a couple of areas within the strategic plan that kind of piqued my interest. And again, I don't know if these ideas have already been tried or if they would even be of interest to OLLI, but be worth exploring further, I think. And one is the potential for establishing additional partnerships throughout our area that could lead to new venues for classes or to bringing in more instructors, or to attracting new members. For example, I'm, you know, a volunteer at the Historical Society, and the society is renovating its building in downtown Medford. And when that construction is completed, there may be some opportunities for OLLI to use the conference rooms or the large event center space. I know the Historical Society has offered at least one OLLI class or in conjunction with OLLI. But perhaps a more concerted joint effort at joint programming would elevate awareness of OLLI among the Historical Society's membership and vice versa. And there may be other additional untapped potential with other organizations around the area. And the second thing that comes to mind, and again, this is just a maybe potential thing to explore, is perhaps more fully promote OLLI's offer of membership fee assistance for people who may be burning with the desire to learn, but may feel that there's a bit of a financial barrier to become a member. I would like to learn more about how OLLI administers its fund that's established for that purpose, and to talk with others at OLLI who have experience and knowledge and ideas in that area. So those are a couple of things that come to mind, but first I would just listen and learn. But I want to thank you all for being here and for your consideration.
So that concludes our formal questions for our candidates. Now we're gonna open it up to any questions from the audience here or anyone that's online on Zoom. Anybody here? Yeah,
I ask that every year when I see the prospective people, and there are 3 spots and 4 people. So, what would you do if you are not so?
Easy question.
That's part of all. Not being privately.
Well, I will fess up. Part of the reason, aside from Ann McGill asking me to run for this, that I'm running for this is because I want to contribute to OLLI. But my skill set would be to teach people how to read statute. And that sounds, that sounds not very, or I could also teach whitewater. And I suspect that OLLI's liability policy. So that's an excellent question. I've not answered it.
Well, when Kevin and I met with Sarah to get a little introduction to this forum and get some guidance, she assured us that OLLI Council already has plans for us, if whoever is not elected. So I'd like to hear what those plans are.
Me too.
But I do feel that finally I have the time and the bandwidth to become more involved, and OLLI does seem like a good place for me to put my efforts. In addition to the Historical Society, which I don't want to give up, but being centered here in Ashland and with this incredible community, I would find some way. I don't have a plan yet, but I know others have plans.
Yeah, I don't know either exactly what would be the best thing. I'd probably rely on John and Sarah to tell me this is where we really need you. And whatever it is, I'd probably do it because I can do a lot of different things. I guess things that interest me is we did travel programs when I was here at the university. We used to do art museum tours to Seattle and San Francisco and stuff. And that's something like that may be fun for OLLI, and maybe they're already doing it. I just don't know. But so travel programs would be an area that I would be interested in. I also, because I've lived here for 47 years and I've been very involved in the community, I know a lot of people and institutions, kind of like you with the Historical Society. I'm on the road budget committee. Maybe RCC wants a different kind of partnership with OLLI, and maybe they could, have a chapter in Grants Pass. Who knows? I just think that I'll find something. I'm not going to live or die and fall on my sword if I don't get elected to the council. So I hope I can stay involved and find something interesting to do that's helpful.
It's interesting that I'm here because my last years of working and my first 2 years of retirement, I told everyone repeatedly, I'm never volunteering for anything. And yet here I am. So that's how impressive OLLI is, right? I would probably continue to take OLLI classes, maybe volunteer for OLLI in a different way. I like events. I like helping put on events. So probably things along that line, and continue to meet and connect with new people in this great community.
Any other questions? We have one online.
With Paul.
Paul.
Oh, really?
Oh, we
Hold
gotta,
on, Paul. Okay, Paul, will you try again?
It's muted.
Paul, we can't quite hear.
Any better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'd like to ask the candidates a question about their regional focus. Do you consider OLLI as primarily serving Ashland or serving the Rogue Valley? And how could you serve a wider region?
Who wants to take that first?
I'll give it a shot. Well, Ashland does, excuse me, Ollie primarily does serve Ashland. I mean, that's just the way it is. But that's not the vision. The vision is to serve the Rogue Valley, I think extending as far as Grants Pass and Eagle Point and, Shady Cove and other parts of the region. But we have work to do to make that happen. We've got to find partners. You mentioned the Historical Society. Rogue Community College already mentioned. There are other institutions like OSU Research and Extension. The school districts have facilities and libraries in our communities. I think it's working to not make Ollie quite, it'll be Ashland centric, but not exclusively Ashland is really the goal that we ought to strive for. And so I think we got to reach out, talk to the people in those organizations and find out, they've got talented instructors out there living in Shady Cove of all places, or Gold Hill. How do we get those people involved? And so I think that's what we ought to strive toward.
I can just say ditto to that.
Same. I was going to say, I'm completely unqualified to answer that question because I don't know enough about the structure, but I love Kevin's answer. Answer for all of us. For all of us. All
It's a new word, I think.
You all know enough about OLLI at this point to realize that it's a unique institution. What do you think is the single most important attribute of a director? Please don't give a corporate boilerplate answer. I'm a people person, or something like that. What do you think you bring to the table, you as an individual?
You repeat that.
Okay, the question for those on Zoom is, what's the most single qualifying characteristic to be an OLLI director? And we're not looking for a corporate answer.
I think it's your spirit, your passion. What motivates you? What excites you about it? What lights your fire? What can you make it keep going great? Somebody said, I don't want to break it. Good point. It's amazing. But what can we dream? What together can we dream?
Well, I'd say what she said. But I would add something. I guess I would say my whole life I've been kind of an innovator, trying to find new things. I helped start, solar. I helped start university youth programs, was one of the programs I started. The Masters in Management, the Southern Oregon Telecommunication and Technology Council that got away from having to have long distance chargers for your phones. I mean, there are others. I guess I think what I could bring is kind of just trying to think of new things and try to make them happen.
I would say, and I apologize if it's a corporate answer, but I would say listening to what the membership wants, and I know the survey gives that kind of feedback, and listening to what the conversation is around the directors, the council table, and trying to help pull disparate threads together, trying to tease out opportunities that may seem to be there in the weeds, and being willing to just think kind of outside the normal way of doing things and look for opportunities and ways that enhance what OLLI already does.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean into that as well. You know, being a good listener, listening to what, and I said this before in one of my earlier responses, but I guess sort of to switch it around a little and say, what is this as a quality? It's to sort of be one of you, to be. And in so many of my I've taken a ton of classes, not as many as Kari, but I've taken a whole lot of classes, and in these classes, I've seen very different people. Very, people with completely different experiences in life, completely different experiences, completely different socioeconomic experiences, completely different ethnic experiences, completely different educational experiences, different work experiences. And I certainly can't be everybody, but one of my attributes is to and this is going to sound really ooh, so I'm not going to say it exactly the way that I'm thinking it, but it's just, it's to put myself in everybody's shoes and to try to understand what it is that is causing people to want what they want, and then, as Susan said, to try to make it happen with, as it can happen.
Let's go with one more question.
I do have another question, but I don't know, I wanted to see if anybody else does.
Oh, wait, you have one there?
Yes, one of the things about being on council that I've found frustrating is that when you go to a class, the people don't know much about the organization. You know, what I call the underbelly, the council is kind of the underbelly. And also there are several committees that don't have leadership that they need to have. So what could you do to promote more of that really committed volunteerism? Everybody loves to take the classes, but it's a little hard to do the underbelly stuff. So what are your suggestions about that?
Well, where's the camera? I'm gonna take the opportunity right now to say to everybody online and everybody in the room, I mean, participation is what's gonna make all this happen. And I think that, I have been asked, I've had people in all of my OLLI classes ask the rest of the class, what can you teach? I've heard, what can you teach as a question so many times. And I've had several classes this term with new instructors, and there have been members of the curriculum committee who've come in and given a spiel. I think that and that's been super helpful. And I think that's the kind of thing, having somebody come in and give the spiel about what OLLI is and how it operates, and regardless of whether it's a new instructor or not, because I think many, and my apologies if you are an instructor and you've got, your spiel down, would not appreciate this, but I think many of us students, many of us members who take the classes would appreciate knowing more about how OLLI works and what we can all do to contribute, and not just the students who are taking classes with curriculum committee members in them, not just the students who are taking classes with new instructors. I also think that there are lots of opportunities like that, and I would certainly want to have conversations about making more of that happen, because as we all know, it's such a robust community, third largest OLLI in the country according to Sarah.
Sixth.
Sixth largest OLLI in the country. And so much of that comes back to, again, who you all are and how you all have convinced your peers, your fellow comrades in arms, to participate, to teach these classes, to have so many class offerings. But again, coming back to, having, when I was a kid, we had Schoolhouse Rock. We had this understanding of how democracy worked. And, I think every institution needs its own sort of cultural glue. And having announcements in class regularly, having more frequent sort of informal get-togethers where we have president give some little OLLI blue cultural statement that's the kind of thing that binds a community, in my experience.
I think that's an excellent answer, and I agree with everything she said. I will just say in my experience, I was quite content to take classes and go to a few events but it wasn't until a friend kind of put a bug in my ear about maybe you should run for the council. It had not really occurred to me, but once she put that bug in my ear, and then I talked with John about what it meant to be a director, and I thought, yeah, that's a good match with me, good fit, and I could contribute, and it kind of woke me up. So I think we need to figure out a way to reach out and either identify potential leaders or people who can work well on committees and kind of give them just that little extra nudge. I think that would help, but I'm sure there are plenty of other ideas as well.
Well, it seems to me, in answer to your question, the problem with OLLI members is they have lives. You know, they have grandchildren, they have travel, they have health issues, they have other organizations, they want to take, so they have all this other stuff. And, like, why in the world would I tie myself down to 3 years on the OLLI council? Man, I'm gonna die, or why would I want to be on a committee that has to meet once a month? So I mean, I think people are, kind of ask, I don't have to do it, I'm not gonna do it. And so that's kind of, what we're up against, but people do have all these talents. And like Susan is kind of saying, if we ask them, maybe they will, but I guess the thing I would offer is maybe we need to look for ways that are a little shorter term. Instead of asking somebody, would you chair a committee and it meets once a month and you go to the OLLI council to report? We'd like you to be part of a task force, going to meet 3 times. And then you're going to make a report and make recommendations. Let's, do something that's more fixed term, maybe a little easier to commit to in spite of all the other things that are going on in people's lives. So that'd be one idea that I would try.
So if I'm understanding the question, it's about how to get more people to serve on committees, is that it?
Yeah, and to know a little bit more about the organization and how it works,
Okay.
You go to class and you don't know how it functions, you like this wonderful class, but you don't know
Right.
the governing body, I guess.
Okay.
Would membership engagement be part of that?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I'm not quite sure I understand the whole scope of the question. I get the part about you need more people for committees and how do we go about doing that, but the part about how do we get more people to understand it? I think it's a personal choice, I mean, some people just want to take the class and go home and whatever, so not everybody wants to know it all, but in terms of filling up the committees with more people, I didn't realize that was a problem. But I guess I kind of like maybe the idea of just some one-on-one approaches, as we get to know people, kind of learning who some of our classmates are and thinking, hey, you might be a good fit for this, and would it be fun to do this together kind of thing? And maybe it's sort of like selling advertising, you just gotta go ask. Marketing.
Let's give our candidates one more round. We're gonna have them stick around so you can ask them questions one-on-one. But before that, there's a few announcements I want to make. And that is, the election ballots will be mailed out on May 12th. And if you don't have an email address, or if your household has more than 2 people on the same email account, you'll get a paper ballot. And the ballots need to be returned to the office by Wednesday, May 20th. Election results will then be announced on Monday, May 25th. And then beyond the election, on June first, Monday, June first, is our all-member meeting at the Stevenson Union, beginning at 2 o'clock. And you want to be there because we're gonna have ice cream. Yeah,
And
and
some musical stuff.
music, exactly, music, entertainment, a guest speaker.
Yes.
And then I'll be doing a recap of some things happening. Myrna will do a recap of our financial situation. Sarah, as incoming president, will give a talk. I mean, it's a whole cast of characters.
Oh, it's great, it's musical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
but ice cream's the draw.
Let's be real.
So again, I appreciate everyone coming. Our candidates will be here for some one-on-one time. We'll give it about 10 minutes. And then for those that want to stay behind, we're going to talk about the proposed revision of our bylaws. Okay.
No.
Okay, so Megan's gonna share a graphic that's gonna explain what all of the changes to the bylaws are. They're pretty straightforward, so hopefully it makes sense to you. So up here on the screen, and those online hopefully can see this also. There's some kind of technical changes to the bylaws. Heather's position in the bylaws now is called the OLLI administrator, and technically she is the administrative director. So I think there's like 15 or more places in the bylaws where we're making that change, you know, real straightforward, just to bring things up to the way things are now. There's some minor grammatical changes. We found that, you know, when you have like 30 days and it's a possessive, you need to have an apostrophe after the S. And thanks to our smart people on council, we picked up on that and we're gonna make that change. But probably the most significant portion of the bylaw changes is the current way the bylaws are, it spells out the committees. Yet we want life to be a little bit more flexible. And so instead of just spelling out what the committees are, we want to describe what the functions are. So if we want to create new committees, combine committees, change the name of a standing committee, convert a team to a committee or convert a committee to a team, this change would give us that flexibility. And so speaking of teams, we had teams and we've had teams for a number of years, but the bylaws never mention the word teams. So in the bylaws now we're saying committees and teams. So again, so we had that flexibility. And then the final thing we're doing is we want to add the immediate past council president to our executive committee. And our executive committee is made up of the officers. So the secretary, treasurer, vice president, president make up the executive committee. And they're the ones that formulate the agenda for the council meetings. They kind of discuss, you know, kind of some of the inner workings of governance and decide, you know, what should go in front of the full council, what warrants a decision through a motion. And adding the past council president to the executive committee makes a ton of sense because they've got that year of experience of governance. And so that's one thing we want to do. And some of these things came out of our strategic plan. Like I know this last item here was something that was identified by that ad hoc committee. So any questions on any of these bullets? Any comments on any of the bullets?
I just have a question. If a person that you're adding to the, if they don't want to do it, are they required to do it as part of their signing up the top positions?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, like you, for example.
Oh, the past president. Well, if they don't want to do it, I guess, yeah, they can always bow out. I'm in a unique position that as past president, I'll still be a council director. So I'm more than happy to be on the executive committee. Now, in the future, I guess a person could say, I'm too busy, I'm gonna go travel, I'm moving. So yeah, we can't force them.
Just curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. Anybody else with a question or comment? If you really want a deep dive, we can look at the bylaw itself. Yeah, I don't really wanna do that. Yeah,
Just describe or remind us what the ratification procedures are. Members.
great question, yeah. So when you get your ballot, you're gonna see a yes or no question on the ballot to, do you agree with the modifications to the bylaws or not? So you either answer yes or no. And again, in the news flash, there's a link to the bylaw changes. And the bylaw changes, if you look at that PDF, you'll see that the additions are in blue and the deletions are a crosshatch. So it should be pretty straightforward. So that link is both in the news flash, but also in the electronic ballot, you're gonna get that link. Now, if you're one of the lucky people that gets a paper ballot, we're gonna provide you a paper copy of
But you must read.
You must read, right? So it's a yes or no vote, and we will tally that. And I think in accordance with our bylaws, it has to be a majority for it to pass.
Majority of those voting,
Yeah, a majority of those voting right, so 51%.
and then it needs to be approved by the provost or.
Yeah, the bylaws, again, it's like a contract between us and the university. And so Janet Fratella is the signature of that. And also the chair of the SOU Foundation trustees is also a signatory to the bylaws. So, let's assume that it passes the vote. Then we will clean up that PDF, get rid of all the crosshatches, convert the blue words to black words, create a clean copy, provide it to Janet and the chair of the SOU Foundation, get their signatures on it, get that clean copy posted to our website and move forward. Anyone else? Yeah, every about 4, 5, 6 years, there's typically a revision to the bylaws. And one thing I would point out is we also have policies and procedures that are also on our website and also provide guidance for governance. And those can be modified just by a vote of the council. It does not require the membership to vote on it. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.